Surely you are familiar with the movie and or book The Men Who Stare at Goats, about the army trying to create psychic soldiers in the aftermath of the Vietnam War and doing serious trials with clairvoyance and remote viewing and telekinesis and trying to make goats drop dead because goats are always what they used in military trials to test the efficacy of killing stuff. And the screwball comedy is kind of like Big Lebowski in a military setting, which is a very good concept. So I'll just assume you've seen it. And the real man, Jim Channon, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Channon, who was the main character in the movie, and they mercilessly parodied him. And to his infinite credit, the real guy has a YouTube channel and came out with a YouTube response to the movie in which he said, hey, it's a great comedy. It's an ultimate roast. And he really liked it because he's a cool guy. And even though his mortal shell may have left us in 2017, his YouTube channel remains. And that, in the digital age, the digital identity is all that really matters. So we can always listen to Jim Channon talk about what he was really doing in the Psychic Soldier, the First Earth Battalion, where they were incorporating New Age mysticism philosophy into Army tactics, and ended up looking like a bunch of hippies, like they're singing about in California. Über alles, ended up in the Army in high positions, Lieutenant Colonel. That's big stuff. And he just said in this response video, briefly mentioned, actually this was for serious military applications. We were trying to teach soldiers meditation in case they ended up in a bunker holding up for 50 years after a nuclear war. And that instantly, just in that one brief mention of that, I was like, okay, it's plausible. Because in my last ukulele video, I said, boredom is probably going to be the real thing that's going to cause massive problems in an apocalypse scenario. Because people are more likely to get stir crazy and fall into infighting. And then in a bunker, that's really extreme. Because then you're not even camping in the wilderness singing Kumbaya together in your hippie commune. I mean, in a bunker, even if it's a military, if they got 50,000 years of MREs and all kinds of stuff, and have army showers and all kinds of nice stuff in the bunker, civil war in the bunker is, they consider it to be the most likely outcome of any scenario like that. Civil war, or some kind of hierarchical thing where they're two sides fighting off, fall into infighting or just constant fighting, So that's where the meditation comes in, and I never tried meditation myself. I think it's interesting. I always had a mild, marginal interest in Buddhism and Hinduism, not enough to really get into it, but especially for the art and music, it is interesting, right? And it's not like I have the patience to do any kind of meditation. Concentrating on playing guitar or whatever instrument for long enough to make a video is the closest thing I ever come to meditation, which is where this ukulele thing comes in, because I think you could use it to put yourself in a trance, sitting in a bunker or in your SHTF apocalypse scenario, wherever you are. Hypnotize yourself with an open chord, and you don't even really have to know how to play, because you get some kind of open tuning. I don't know how to play ukulele. Apparently there are real tunings for this, and apparently you can make real music. I mean, I've seen people do really cool stuff, and there are real ukulele bands and stuff, but the instrument has such a stigma of cheesiness that's kind of hard to overcome. but I see it as, first of all, it's really practical. Kala, it's really available. You can get them for under $50, and they're not even. This thing like looks like a toy, but I mean the fretboard, the intonation is surprisingly good for. It's not a toy. Like toy instruments that really don't have intonation and stuff. This isn't like that. And I got a couple. I got this Waterman here for $20. It's made of plastic, but it's usable. So they're really available, and when you really think about it in the big picture, I don't think ukuleles are that cheesy, because if you look at a lot of traditional folk music of radically different cultures that are actually cool, they have stuff that are pretty similar to ukuleles, okay? Like I was watching some YouTube videos about some kind of Siberian tribesmen, nomadic. They kind of looked like Mongols. It was kind of like the Who band. It was cool. And it was just three guys with some kind of ukulele type thing. Or, it was like a 3 or 4 string little guitar. It wasn't a balalaika, okay? I don't know what it was. But, and then there was one guy with a drum and one, and they were doing throat singing. And, this was an all acoustic 3-piece little thing where they're in the woods. And it rocked. It was awesome, and you can, do stuff like that. And here's the thing. It looked like in a lot of traditional music, they have really simple stuff to play where it's open tunings and they're just moving one finger around a little bit to get some kind of chord changes, like. But they were doing it really fast and furious. This Siberian tribesman music, I'm not sure if they were Yakuti people, because there are a whole lot of different Siberian indigenous people that, I mean, they kind of look like Mongols, kind of look like some type of Asian type of people that were there long before, the Russians and Soviet Union. And they have traditional instruments that actually sound cool. And there are a lot of non-Western folk music that sounds kind of rockin'. And they're usually banging on really simple ukulele-looking things, some kind of mini lutes, and sometimes they have 2-string, bowed instruments and all kinds of stuff. And I think this stuff is really easy to play. And in different cultures, like, the saz in Turkey, the really long thing where it's 6 strings, but it's like 3 tuned together like a mandolin. And they had this bardic tradition of epic poetry, where there are these like epic poet bard guys reciting ancient poetry and just banging on the saz, and it looks like it's really easy. They just make like a drone. And of course the saz you can do virtuosic stuff on. It's a serious instrument, but you can also just hit open stuff and do really easy sounding stuff. I think these instruments from a lot of folk cultures were meant to be very democratic so that anybody could play them and just sing, because a lot of it was more about the vocals and then just accompanying it with some kind of drone. And you can totally do that on the ukulele. I mean, I got 3 here set up for that, just some kind of open tuning, and you can make it sound mystical to hypnotize yourself, like this thing, put down 2 fingers. And that might make it easier to overcome the boredom. Of course, people might fall into infighting over the ukuleles, but I think the one thing is soldiers in a bunker who are going to be bored stiff for years while they wait for the isotopes to decay. Because, in the 1st Earth Battalion, and I think the Army in general, I mean, Jim Channon was talking about how he wasn't trying to impose this new age idea on the Army. They high ups, higher than him, generals, were looking for totally new ideas. I think a lot of it was like reforming their attitude after the Vietnam War and stuff. But they were also gearing up for getting nuked, and kind of like in Dr. Strangelove, where he says, "Oh, we'll only have to wait like 150 years for the isotopes to decay before we go out of the bunker, and we have to repopulate." Which is why we'll have, women of a particularly stimulating nature, while he's trying to hold his arm back from Sieg Heilen. But it could really be like that, where you have to fight off the boredom, and then that's where the ukuleles come out. And giving the soldiers, something to do where, just an open tuning thing where you don't have to know how to play, is your first step, because you always meet people who say, I'm not musical, I'll never be able to play, but I like music. And that's maybe the real point of all this, a thing where you don't have to know how to play, you can just strum on, or at least do, if you learn a little right hand and you leave out the chords on the left hand, like having to actually do real fingers and shapes and chord stuff, you can, that's the foundation of rhythm, just getting some kind of rhythm going. Or that kind of sounds bad, but So once you give them the idea, like, oh, it is within reach. First just get the idea of some kind of strumming pattern, or it doesn't sound like nothing. It sounds kind of like something, and that's a first step. Baby steps toward playing an instrument, and given a lot of self-purportedly non-musical people, because I think anybody can actually do it. I don't think it's some kind of virtuosity. Look at me. I never learned how to play at all, and I can at least sort of do stuff. I mean, but I'm from a non-musical family and a very limited school orchestra lessons, whatever you. So teaching people to play, giving them hope for the future, and that's what the First Earth Battalion and the whole Jim Channon. You look up his YouTube channel. The man had or has a vision for the future, and it's what we all want: singing "Kumbaya" together, and vision of world unity, a united world. The ukulele trance music might play a role in that, and I would recommend multiple ukuleles in multiple open tunings, because in Hindustani culture, in the sitar music, right? In the ragas, that are generally like 20-minute songs where the intro is like 5 or 6 minutes before the drums even kick in. The tablas, which that's a long story, but the missus, my better half, and Scheisse wife picked up a couple of these. I don't know. These are where the Civil War might really break out, because I've never been a drumming inclined person, even though I love the drums, but whatever. So you got the Indian music. In Hindustani music, I think sitar music is used for meditation, and that cosmic sound it has really trance you out, and they had ragas for morning, noon, and night, like evening ragas. If you get Ravi Shankar records and stuff, it has labeled this and this name in Hindi or Sanskrit or something. Evening raga, morning raga. So you got your ukuleles in different tunings for whatever ukulele open tune psych jam. Now that was wholly screwed up, because I think the idea, if you're really going to meditate, is on this playing something consistent all the way on out for like an hour, or however long you have to sit in the bunker. Years. I'm learning myself. This is lifelong learning when you're spending a lifetime in the post SHTF wonderland, where you got unlimited time to play. That could be a song somehow, or. So once you got your psychic soldiers meditating to one, pattern in an open position, teach them to put one finger down. that really thing in a lot of folk music in different cultures. It is just about getting a drone and then putting one finger down and moving up and down, you know? And then you can start going full Sonic Youth, and that's where the practicality of it comes in, because so you glean some, ideas from watching tribal Siberian tribesman music, which sounds kind of rockin', and that can really be applied to post-punky, alternative rocky, Sonic Youthy type shit, man. It's awesome. And try copying their stuff and adding it to your own stuff, and kind of like the X. They do that all the time. They spent like a year in Ethiopia jamming with the locals there, and those guys actually created some kind of like Ethiopian blues, was some kind of psychedelic rock and shit. It was pretty cool. And the X was always doing like side projects and incorporating various types of ethno folk music, and it always rocked. It never sounded like they were doing world beat off arty farty stuff, It always sounded like anarcho punk awesome shit. So that's why they're one of my favorite bands. They never get boring. And they have like, elements of hippie jam band in their aggro rock stuff, and really good lyrics, all kinds of stuff. I'm sure Jim Channon knew about them and liked them, right? Actually, the anarcho attitude of the X is very compatible with the 1st Earth Battalion. Even though it's kind of hard to believe these guys are in the Army and a lieutenant colonel, but he just said like they in the Army, it's nothing like basic training when you get up there, and they're actually experimenting with new ideas, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really the person to know about the Army, so I'll leave that for all you. Hey, and if you're actually in the Army, if you're an Army guy stationed out somewhere in an exotic country, like try to find one of the local instruments. I think in Japan too, they have what is it? The shamisen? I think that's actually hard to play, but there are countries where they're going to have some local instruments that are going to be stuff you can just bang on, kind of like an open-tuned ukulele, or you can just tune it open yourself. Some kind of chord that sounds interesting. Like this here, the Waterman that I got for 1995 Euro bucks. I have it tuned to 2 notes in unison where you just can't miss. One thing about unison notes is the slight dissonance of the 2 strings not being perfectly in tuned gives it some kind of cosmic sound, like on the sitar and in Hindustani music, and then the tanpura or tambura, the drone instrument that's only 4 strings and they're all like in unison, and that little just like slight dissonance that makes it like sound cosmic and trips you out. Which Sonic Youth does all the time. And Ricky Wilson, we were talking about that before too. Unison strings. And of course Glenn Branca with his guitars all... we'll do Glenn Branca in the future, but I think a lot of his guitars are all tuned to the same note. So it's kind of like, well, we should try it. So what do you think? Our ukulele meditation, my hope is that it would ease the pain of meditation, especially sitting there in an uncomfortable position. That seems to be a big part of it. Like a seiza, sitting properly in the Japanese martial arts, where you're sitting on your feet and it hurts like hell. or a lotus position. I don't know. Does it hurt? I never tried it, but the idea of just creating a drone to trip yourself out, and in the shit hits the fan apocalypse without rule of law thing, there will be plenty of marijuana and hopefully lots of other ethnobotanicals to trip yourself out as you do a drone. It's like, what do you think? Do you think that would work? Or do you think the ukuleles would annoy the shit out of each other and make you fight even more? Because the whole idea is like to be a united world in the future. And like, is ukulele drone music the thing that's gonna do that? I think experimenting with open tunings and, experimental guitar stuff that's easy for people to play if they don't know guitar, especially if they're defeatists who say they like music, but just I'm not musical. To me, I can understand why people say that, but it's because real guitar lessons, and especially, oh my god, violin in school, orchestra, these can be really unforgiving instruments to learn. I mean, especially just regular guitar. If you never tried it before, the campfire chords in a G major, C major and stuff, getting your hand to do that just sucks, and it'll defeat people if they already are going into it with an I can't play attitude. So just doing nothing with your left hand, slowly putting down one finger at a time. It's kind of like bass playing if you think about it. That's why I also I will never attempt to teach people, but I tell people who say they're not musical, try bass. It's way less painful to start than guitar. And then I also see these things as kind of the same instrument. These are all, unless it's like a sitar or a harp or a dulcimer or something. Most lute instruments are kind of the same principle on the same thing. I mean, okay, mandolins and stuff, which I like a lot, but I think that's an expert instrument. I would not try to. Every time I've had one, I felt defeated. Also, anything with the frets that close together. I mean, the ukulele to me only seems playable because I got all these things set up where you can do it on one finger. I mean, anything where you're scrunching your fingers together. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I preferred baritone guitar, even for high notes, is just to not have to scrunch your hands up nearly as much on the high notes or any notes. Just a guitar with a longer scale length. You could even tune it E to E. I don't care, but that's beside the point. Making it easier for yourself, why not? Guitar also has kind of an elitist thing. That's why I would never pretend to be a teacher teaching people how to play wrong. And I'm not the one to take a lesson from, but to expand upon ideas of the 1st Earth Battalion and take any stringed instrument really to tune it open. Of course, you can do this with guitar, which we're going to talk about later too, for sure. But guitars take up more space in the bunker, and they're not quite as forgiving as a 4-string ukulele, and they might, just having a guitar might make people think they have to play hard stuff right off the bat. And for people who say they're totally non-musical, even playing campfire chords is going to be hard at the start. So you try to eliminate the defeatist attitude. The non-musicians have, hey, I'm a non-musician. I do not consider myself a real musician. So give people a new pastime to spend all of eternity worth of practice to do their own thing, create their own drones, and then sing along to it. That's part of it. Make up a fictitious language, kind of like the Talking Heads in Zimbra and David Byrne and Brian Eno in My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, where it was like an ethnographical music thing about a fictitious tribal music. And you could really do that, and that might be like endless entertainment in the apocalypse, making up stuff, and making up your own language for a united world and just tripping out for all of eternity. And kind of that would be very much in the spirit of Jim Channon and his vision of a united world, where there are like most definitely cosmic entities guiding us who will intervene if we attempt to destroy. Look at his channel, man. It is great because even though he has left us in physical form, like a true shaman returning to the sky, tripping on acid as he flies off in a helicopter into the mountains in Afghanistan, which happened in the movie, but I don't think the real, well, whatever, who cares about real, Jim Channon is still with us, and with that, I will contemplate the all-round carefree package of apocalyptic, united first world, first earth eternity.